Recently, YouTube recommended a video to me. Why People Treat Some Women Better Than You, the title read. With a soft, pleasant voice, the creator gently explained that a woman who gets treated well is not necessarily prettier, richer, better. She simply knows how to act. And between the silky threads of her sentences, there was laced the message. You have been mistreated because you have allowed it. You don't know how to act, and people undervalue you accordingly. This line of thinking is increasingly popular online with the phrase, leave him or leave us out of it, becoming instinctual as the long suffering wife, long suffering girlfriend complains about the mistreatment she's experiencing because, in our minds, she's choosing to stay there, and it is torture for us to watch her through it if she's not willing to do something about it. At least that's the story we tell ourselves. I want to question if our attitudes towards mistreated women actually say more about our feelings towards them than towards the harm they're receiving. The pattern is easy enough to spot. On some kind of public platform, a man's insufficiency is exposed, one that is supposed to be covered by burdening a woman in his life. The audience, strangers to both people involved, responds by urging the affected woman to leave him, take revenge, or at least not step up to solve the problem created by him. Instead, the woman usually follows up with a message that excuses his behavior. Extra points if she uses the words, "You don't know him." This song and dance has become so predictable that it has popularized the aforementioned response, leave him or leave us out of it. Also, inspire commentary videos and essays trying to figure out why is it so common for this exact pattern to come up constantly? Why does it inspire such exhaustion in the audience to witness it? What is the motivation behind performing in public the most shameful part of your relationship? But my question is, who is left to deal with that shame? And what do we get out of it? Often, the audience insists that the reason they grow frustrated with the women in these situations is that although she has the choice to leave, unlike our foremothers, she chooses to stay with him, having no legal or social pressure to defend him and his poor behavior, which to me is actually a fallacy. Every summer, hot singles enter a colorful villa in Fiji, playing, kissing, and hoping to find love, supposedly. This summer, one of the islanders, Melanie Moreno, developed a connection with fellow islander, sincere Rhea. Throughout the weeks the show has been running, people across the world have witnessed Sincere lie to, gaslight, and love bomb Melanie to the point of exhaustion. We're going to refer to him as the perpetrator of the harm and her as the receiver. During a recent episode, Movie Night, where the Islanders are shown clips of moments and comments they were not privy to, the whole villa, including Melanie, were finally able to see the extent of Sincere's lies and disregard for everyone's feelings. Viewers at home were expecting this to be the turning point, hoping Melanie would break it off with Sincere and the rest of the cast would hold him accountable for his reprehensible behavior. Instead, multiple islanders, including Melanie's close friends in the villa, vouched for him and made excuses for his behavior, not only invalidating Melanie's feelings regarding the depth of the situation, but in an effort to support her, denied that she looks like a fool, which she has been constantly called by people at home. Despite the abnormality in circumstances the Love Island cast live under during the summer, in many ways their behavior is a sample of larger societal patterns. When Melanie comes out of the villa, she might say the same famous words all suffering women have uttered. You just don't know him. And she would be right. We are strangers watching from afar, people who care not for him or her, Because if viewers really cared for Melanie's well-being, they would have voted her out of the villa. Instead, they voted for her and Sincere as a top compatible pair, not only confirming the comments her friends made, but keeping her trapped with him in an isolated villa surrounded by his yes-men until she fell back on the familiar pattern of forgiving him. Our entertainment is deemed more important than her recovery. After all, we would not be capable of yelling at our TVs when she goes back to him if she's dealing with her feelings in private. Does that mean that Melanie's actions are all out of her own hands? No, not at all. This is just a documented case of isolation, one of the first steps taken by perpetrators to maintain the relationship with the receivers of their harm. In everyday life, this usually means creating distance with friends and family members who are able to identify said harm that is being done to the receiver. On Love Island, it does not take that much effort since they are already isolated because they're not allowed to have contact with the outside world. If the receiver does not take distance on their own, what happens usually in the outside world is some variation of the leave him or leave us out of it, where loved ones grow exhausted from dealing with the fallout of the relationship over and over again, until the receiver is only surrounded by those who support the relationship. By this point, the receiver has the perpetrator, their heart, and the people they trust all telling them this is the person for them. This is when the new element is introduced. The receiver publicizes the behavior, expecting everyone to downplay it in the same way her circle does, and is shocked by the extreme reactions and even more extreme suggestions. At that point, leaving has been labeled dramatic, unnecessary, crazy, or an exaggeration by the people who supposedly want what's best for them. The advice proves ineffective because from their perspective is coming from strangers that have not witnessed their love story or their day-to-day characters. Instead, the audience could appear to have a biased vision of the perpetrator, one that the receiver helped build by publicizing the behavior, which often fills them with guilt and inspires the excuses tour. On Love Island's Family Day episode, the islanders are visited by family members. Melanie's sister and mother, and even Sincere's father, all of whom strongly oppose their connection due to the evident hurt Sincere has been causing Melanie, gave strong and moving speeches trying to convince her to leave. Despite this, Melanie decided to reaffirm her compromise to Sincere. But if the reason the receiver does not leave the perpetrator is that strangers are the ones opposing, why didn't Melanie's family affect her decision? They're supposed to be the most important people in her life. However, at this point in their connection, Melanie's family members know and love her, but to anyone inside the villa have no attachment to Sincere, meaning that they're witnesses to her character but not his, and thus, on this matter, their advice might seem subjective and geared towards her only without considering the feelings of this person she has come to care about. After the reaffirmation by her fellow islanders, the witnesses that she would give credit to in this situation, Melanie has sunk her heels on this relationship. And even though there have been some retractions from the islanders that first supporting them getting back together, she's past the moment of hurt and is back on the reconciliation stage, one where external advice is not really needed as everything seems to be working between the two. Now that we have a better understanding of the internal dynamic that drives one to make what reads like an obviously poor decision, my curiosity falls on the audience. Us. Not the close circle of friends and family, but the distant audience, which claims to be tired of the cycle but constantly engages. These videos and stories consistently go viral on social media. For that to occur, they must garner high engagement in the form of likes, comments, and shares. While the explicit response claims rejection, leave him or leave us out of it, essentially, we don't want to participate, the engagement betrays the fascination this behavior provokes. I am making the 100 video about it after all. The intense emotions, puzzling choices, and complicated dynamics make for the ideal rage bait content, which is the type of content that is meant to ignite rage and thus engagement from the audience. As I mentioned earlier, Melanie fans agree that Sincere is bad for her, but they still voted them into the top 3 best couples of the season, just so Melanie could entertain them until the last minute, literally one more week. Despite most of the entertaining moments she's had in the villa being the result of emotional distress. Of course, that's not how we rationalize our participation in such dynamics. We claim that we're supporting her career by keeping her in the villa and extending her screen time, as if Melanie wasn't already incredibly popular amongst viewers and brands, as if historically a Love Island it girl does not fare worse because of her unlikable man than she does her screen time. But what we focus on at the end of the day is not the conditions that made it easy for Melanie to choose self destruction, or that making those tired girlfriends and wives sink deeper with their incompetent partners. We only focus on telling them we don't care, because actually ignoring the situation is not enough. We have to let them know we see them as foolish for staying in those situations and that whatever is coming their way is their sole responsibility. That they should not expect a support system to be waiting if they decide to leave because they missed their window to do it without being humiliated. Which takes me back to the beginning of the video. Our perception of other women and our disgust with their actions have driven us to self-flagellation through, quote, self-help gurus. In our eyes, we can either be the receiver that refuses to leave and thus is stupid, or we can win at this game that was rigged for us to lose anyway, by being better, smarter. We're so terrified of becoming the woman who falls prey to a bad partner that we have become vulnerable to discourses that justify mistreatment. The popularity of online coaches, whether it be femininity, dating, confidence, even some career coaches with a majority female audience, is a sign of our extremely individualistic culture, inviting us to spend our energy not on organizing to force societal change, but to train ourselves to make sure we're not the ones who fall prey while punishing the version of us that has made mistakes and bonding with each other over microanalyzing the choices of women who are not smart enough to realize their own errors yet. The irony, of course, is that time and time again, these same coaches find themselves screwed by people in their lives. Not because they deserve it or because they did not hold their head high enough, but because any person at any point has the autonomy to care for you or hurt you to the highest degree. And being exposed to that possibility is the risk that comes with being a social creature, particularly to be a woman in a society that has rituals and patterns built on female suffering, means to always be vulnerable. And one would hope that if and when harm comes your way, you have a circle that acts as a safety net. I will not pretend to have moral superiority. I will not pretend to be morally superior. Often, when those stories come across my screen, I am one to roll my eyes, wonder why they can't just leave and find people who truly appreciate them. And yet, I watch the videos until the end. I followed Love Island until the finale, almost waiting for them to surprise me. But these women and their lives are not cleverly scripted pieces for my entertainment only. Their suffering does not start and end when it amuses me. And if I consume it, I should at least respect them enough to interrogate why I engage with the content as much as I interrogate them for their actions.